like one time we were talking and he just kind of out of the blue, he's like, you could live on nothing but bacon. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Because I never heard that before. That's so goes so against the grain as far as methodology. But yeah, he just kind of talked through it. And then he was telling me that we're not actually omnivores, that we're, what do you call, I even wrote it down here. I wasn't even sure. We're called facultative carnivores. And I was like, what? But everything, elementary teacher told me I'm an omnivore. And he's like, nope. Even vegans have to bring in some form of protein. They synthesize or have something weird, but you have to have some animal product, or at least the nutrients from the animal product to be able to live. There's no true vegan in the world. They'd all die.
Steve, how did you find Carnivore?
Good question. So, I guess I'll back up and just kind of walk through a timeline. I'm kind of, I'm an average guy. As much as I want to pat myself on the back and think that I'm unique in the world, I'm really not. And that's okay. It's actually been comforting to figure that out over time, because I'm just a normal guy. And so I kind of followed the normal guy path. I grew up in the mountains. I grew up in Wyoming and kind of ran around in the mountains my whole childhood. So, total activity, total Gen X kid, climbing up and down shale pits, staying out past dark, Pizza Hut and Video USA on Friday night, and then sleep over at your friends, kind of atypical stuff. So for that reason, I think I had a fairly strong metabolism. And so, which carried me through my 20s. And I remember having friends over, and I really liked to cook. There was a phase where I really started cooking and baking. And it's when my wife was going back to school, and she was working full-time and going to school full-time. So she was just really hammered. And we had a young son at that time, and that he would get up, at 4 a.m. That was the time he'd wake up, and he'd kind of go in and wake her up. And so to stop that from happening, he and I would get up and bake. And so every morning we're like making cookies, and baking pies and things like that. And we just take that down to the local church on the weekend and just lay it out and let people have at it. It's hard to eat 8 pies. And so something like that, but I gave it an effort. I went for it. So, I had friends at that time that, we'd sit down and I'd be like, hey, come over. I've got a bunch of food. And I would eat 4 or 5 slices of pie and wouldn't even think twice about it. And the next morning I would eat a quarter of the pie, a quarter of that delicious blueberry pie again. And the weight I won't say it didn't come on, but I was kind of holding 200 pounds for about 10 years and kind of seemed like no matter what I ate. And then I had, and then the late 30s hit, mid to late 30s hit, and metabolism stopped. I got a desk job, and that was the end of it. And so I just started climbing up in weight, and I guess I was working retail at that time. And then it was a small retail store, so there wasn't a ton of movement. So I think my high back then, I weighed 226 pounds. And then I got on a diet called Zero Belly. I don't even know how I found that one. But it's the guy that writes the books, Eat This, Not That. If you've read those, they're kind of funny. He's like, eat the cheeseburger, don't eat the cinnamon roll, and kind of gives the reasons why. But it was a great diet. It was researched really well. But the practicality of the diet was really intense. Every night you're cooking, meal prep every night was a minimum of 2 hours. It just took forever to get all these ingredients together and to cook them correctly. And then when you actually sat down at eight, it was nothing. It was like 3 bites, and you felt okay. You felt full, but yeah, it wasn't great. And so I was on that diet for a while, and I dropped back down to 202, and I started working parking, which is a wonderful job for anybody out checking parking meters out there in the world. A lot of intensity out there. So I got a lot of walking and running in, running away from folks with their tickets and whatnot. And so I was putting on the miles, at least as far as exercise every day. And so the weight came off, and I felt really good. I was doing really well with it. And then I moved away from that job, after 3 years of that. It's just enough, getting, you try putting a ticket on a Harley Davidson motorcycle in front of a bar. That's a life-changing experience right there. So
that must have been, apart from the exercise factor, that must have been pretty stressful.
Yeah, you could say that. You're kind of getting it on both ends. And the good thing is the city I was working for, the parking was just to get people to move on. It was kind of in a shopping district. They just wanted the people to turn over, not camp out there all day. And so they weren't trying to make money. And so if you had to take a ticket back, you could. It wasn't a big deal. I don't know how people do it and where that's a revenue generator for a city. I don't know how people do that for more than 6 months. It's a pretty intense job. So, anywho, so I moved away from that and got a job with a manufacturing plant. I was working out in the warehouse for a while, just kind of standard stuff, warehouse manager stuff, moving things around, driving forklifts, etc. And I remember when I started there, I was 220 pounds, and I got up to kind of 240s, 250s, and started thinking, I need to do something. I'm buying a bunch of new pants. The button on the pants is starting to hurt. I can't lie anymore. I can't walk around with the button undone. I need to do something. And so I tried, my wife was kind of doing keto at the time. And so I tried that with her. And my first brush with keto was not good. It's, the little chocolate keto snacks and I'm just supposed to eat like 2 chocolate keto snacks and be okay the rest of the day. I'm just like, no, this isn't working. And so she got a cookbook and we got more serious about it. And it was okay. I was probably hanging out in the 250s at that point, and I got down to 240 and I couldn't get below 240. Just, I wouldn't eat for a day or two, and I would just hold it. I couldn't get below it. So there's a little frustration there. And then we went on a family trip, and we were 10 days just kind of driving around exploring north of us. And, I get pretty sleepy when I drive. And so I snack, so I'm doing red vines the whole time, trying to stay awake as we're driving along. And, I gained 12 pounds after that, and it just never came off. I was out of ketosis and it was over. But the thing that I guess I learned and noticed there was I felt good on protein and fat. I felt great. I had energy. I felt stabilized all day. All was good. I wasn't having the early afternoon crash. And so I felt good. And so I started eating, I'd started eating a lot of fat and a lot of protein, and then a lot of carbs too. And so in my mind, I'm like, I'm still doing good here. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I'm doing great. And then I told my brother, who's a doctor in the Army, he's a colonel in the Army, he's a doctor. He's just like, you're just eating bad. You're not eating, this protein and fat's fine if that's all you do. But no, when you're eating all the Twinkies too, it's not helping anybody. And so, and he and I talked quite a bit. And at the time, we were kind of going back and forth about food and whatnot. And he was probably the one that kind of started pointing me that direction, other than I was feeling good. And like one time we were talking, and he just kind of out of the blue, he's like, you could live on nothing but bacon. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Because I never heard that before. That's so goes so against the grain as far as methodology. But yeah, he just kind of talked through it. And then he was telling me that we're not actually omnivores, that we're I even wrote it down here. I wasn't even sure. We're called facilitative carnivores. And I was like, what? But everything, elementary teacher told me I'm an omnivore. And he's like, nope, even vegans have to bring in some form of protein. They synthesize or have something weird, but you have to have some animal product, or at least the nutrients from the animal product to be able to live. There's no true vegan in the world. They'd all die. So when he said that, I was just kind of like, wow, no kidding, huh? Boy, that goes against all the reason and everything we hear. Everything we hear is stay away from meat. Eat meat sparingly, palm size, that's what we keep it. Only a palm size for dinner. You're just like, palm, that's like 3 bites. What are you talking about? And then talking with that brother more, he, he's kind of a funny guy. He's really intelligent. And then one day he came out and he was just like, and again, kind of out of the blue, we're just having a conversation. He's like, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but there's something active going on against meat out there in the world. And I can't explain it. I don't know what it is. And I couldn't point my finger at it, but Steve, there's something going against meat out there, something actively working against it. And I thought that was kind of strange. And I didn't really think a ton of it, other than I just feel good when I eat fat and protein, and that's kind of where I was at. And so the weight ballooned back up. I was hitting, 260s, mid and upper 260s. And I went from working in the warehouse to working a desk job. I've been in this desk job for a couple of years now. And I mean, that, that's the end of it. If you had a metabolism, it's gone. And so, my wife was trying a diet called HCG. I don't know if you've heard of that one, the one where you take the shot that like simulates some kind of pregnancy hormone. So she tried that and had a lot of success and felt great. And so, I wasn't on board, but she did really well with it and lost a lot of weight and was feeling good. And so that almost seems like a diet that, I don't know how to sound this. I don't know how to say this right. It seems like a seasonal diet. It's like, hey, I want to get ready to go. We got a trip coming up. I've got 30 days. I need to lose 15 pounds, So that seems to be HCG. I'm sure if you followed the protocol and went all the way through it, and because it seems like when you come off HCG, you're in ketosis. So if you could come off of it into being keto, you'd probably be fine. But we just never did well with that. And it's just some of the things, like the loading days at the front where you're just stuffing your face with cupcakes and stuff like all day. I don't know. It was strange. So I tried that a couple of times and I just could not get over the shot, man, putting a shot in your arm or somewhere every day. I tried it 3 times. It's just, by the last one, I was like, no way. No more shots, man. I'm not doing that anymore. And so after that, I was like, that's okay. I think I can just do portion control. No problem. I got this. And, that lasted one afternoon, right? And didn't go anywhere. And so then at that same time, I heard the Jordan Peterson interview with Joe Rogan. Just, because while I'm working, I kind of have YouTube going on the side. And they just kind of bounced around where Jordan Peterson was explaining the carnivore diet he was on. And I was just like, that is nuts. Someone can really live that way, And I started remembering what my brother had said about it. And so I started thinking, okay. And that's probably the first time I'd ever heard the term, as far as a dietary thing. I'd never heard, my brother had mentioned that humans are really carnivores because we can live entirely off of meat, fresh red meat. Essentially, you can live off of no problem. If you're going to eat dried meat, then yeah, you're going to have vitamin C deficiencies. But if you'll eat fresh red meat, no problems. You can live on that and that alone. And so with the Jordan Peterson thing, hearing that, and I thought, okay, if I'm really honest, at dinner, I'm there for the meat. I don't care about the asparagus. So, or the Brussels sprouts or the salad, with the croutons. I hate croutons. They cut the top of my mouth, So that was it, just the focus on meat. And I remember thinking, yeah, how great would it be to eat a steak every day? What's wrong with this? I did have kind of one thing holding me back. And this was an internal conversation I was having. I wasn't telling my wife, because I'd done all these other diets and just kept gaining weight, and kept going up in pant size. And thank goodness the pants they carry at Costco are stretchy, because I can squeeze another 10 pounds in there and whatnot. So, and so this might sound silly, Dave, but I've got a favorite place I go to for lunch. It's just a little sports bar here in the town I live in, and they're just good people. It's just a good vibe. But I love the fries and I love the food, and so one day while we were sitting there on lunch break talking with the owner, and I was just like, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this carnivore diet, which is kind of almost whispering it, which is really high protein and high fat. Is there anything you could do to make a meal that would accommodate that?" And she would look, the owner, one of the 2 owners was sitting there. She's just like, I think I could figure something out. And so she went back in the back and then came out and she's like, yeah, I got it. Okay, we're just going to do a pastrami burger. Without that, we're going to do a patty of meat. We're going to do a thick layer of pastrami and then put cheese on top of it. And you just order how many you want. So you just say you want a protein bomb and tell me how many patties, and I'll just repeat that over and over. And so that was it.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, kind of fun. Got a little secret menu item there. And so that at that meal, I was like, okay, I'm starting, and I ordered it for that meal and she did it that time. And then I still didn't tell anybody. And so I started eating that way. And, that your family catches on pretty fast. I'm trying to kind of slide it by my wife. But, when I cook suddenly I'm cooking huge meat meals and only eating the meat and, pushing the rice over to them like, ooh, there you go. Enjoy. She caught on pretty fast that I was up to something. And so I told her, and she's supportive, because she had luck with keto as well. And I showed her the Kelly Hogan video and a couple of the other videos with Carrie and whatnot. And she was like, okay, it's not crazy. Okay, I'll support you. And, she wasn't going to try it at the time. But then she went forward with that. And I mean, it's a trip, right? Starting carnivore, because when you're in keto, when you start keto, I don't know if it's smoother. I don't know if that's the right word. Maybe it's because you're still eating vegetables. So it's not a big shift for your body to make the jump from one to the other, or it's just smoother when it makes the jump. I mean, I didn't have diarrhea, thank goodness, because some of those stories are pretty terrifying. But I guess I probably went the other way. My sleep was it was crazy. Sleeping was really intense. Like dreams were intense and very vivid. Like it was just a really interesting time. And like I would wake up at night and just hear my heart pounding, like almost deafening level pounding kind of all night. You're like, whoa, what, am I okay? But I felt good. That was the weird thing about it, was even though I was definitely changing, I was feeling great. And I mean, and maybe I should backtrack a little and just explain kind of where I was at that time. I mean, like I'm, eating heavy protein, heavy fat, but heavy everything else. And like at night when I'd go to bed, I mean, I don't know how much. Yeah. I mean, I was to the point where for a midnight snack or a late night snack right before bed, I was taking half a box of brand new cereal and eating half the box, just dumping it into one of those huge salad bowls, and then of Captain Crunch, or whatever else was there. And then I would get done eating it, and then I'd go lay down in bed and be like, I think I need another bowl. It's just like, it just doesn't satiate you at all, right? And that's how you end your night, is with what, 2,000 calories of cereal right before you go to sleep. So, and I guess the thing that was really bothering me was I could feel my heart beating strangely. It was, and I don't have a general practitioner, and I never have. Like I've had a few issues with eyes, and I'll get to that in a little bit. I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis as a kid, which is, kind of an inflammatory arthritis, right? And it can cause paralysis and cause a bunch of other issues. They say that I grew out of it because I, it never seized up my back or anything like that. I think that I never had any injuries, so I don't know that there was the opportunity for it to do that. But I have iritis, which they, since my diagnosis, they've connected the two. And I don't know if you know what that is. Iritis is your body essentially thinks that there's something wrong with your eye when there's not. So it starts flooding your eye with white blood cells, and faster than your eye can pump them out, because it just is getting these signals that something's wrong and when there's not. And so you have to start taking a steroid drop to allow your eye to flush faster. But the steroid drop is so intense, it continues your body thinking something's wrong. And so it's kind of this balance of, okay, you need to take them every hour, and when you need to wake up at night and try and take them every hour, this drop. And then over the course of a month or two, we're going to taper off, very slowly to where your body is okay again. So at night, it was, having these heart almost palpitations. Like I'd wake up, my heart's racing. I'm doing nothing, I'm sleeping. And I wake up and my heart is just pound, 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 beat, 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 beat. And I'm just like, something's wrong, man. I'm not feeling good. And, you get up to walk out and get a drink of water, and my heart is just going a mile a minute, like I was out running and like crazy. And I mean, there was a time where I had some pretty good, I was okay physically. I mean, I ran the Dopey for Disney, which is first day's a 5K, second day's a 10K, third day's a half, and the fourth day's a full. And I felt great, and so it was almost like I was coming off of running the half marathon. My heart was just racing. And I wasn't doing anything. I was pouring a glass of water. And so that was probably the biggest thing I noticed when I started carnivore and got into that. When I was sleeping, I would wake up and I would feel it. I would hear my heart pounding, but it all felt right. It didn't feel wrong. It almost felt like it was, the engine was getting nitroglycerin dumped into it. It was all the right things were happening. My motor was still racing, but it was the right way to do it. And I can explain it more than that, or maybe in any better detail than that. But yeah, I just started feeling right. I unfortunately, like I've heard carnivore people will get rid of GERDs or acid reflux. That was not the case for me. And again, I'm just kind of an average guy, and I hope that I follow the path of my fellow carnivores that seem to be able to beat that. But But for me, it was almost like it tripled it. Like I was taking the, Prilosec, or the pill you take every day, to what, the protein pump inhibitor or whatever that thing is. I was taking it every day, and I was also taking Pepcid C's, and I was, still waking up at night just burning up with acid reflux. And a good immediate cure for me is to, get a cup of milk and just kind of sip it as the acid's coming up. I'll take a little sip, and I would do that all night. I'd be up all night sipping with my heart pounding like crazy. Like it was just a very interesting time for me. But I don't know how to say it other than it all felt right, because the night would eventually pass and the day would come and I wouldn't feel tired at all. I had great energy all day. Like my energy levels completely evened out. I had spring in my step, I think I do have a few carryovers from arthritis or maybe old age. Like my hips have a lot of pain, when I get out of bed, especially in the winter, where I don't know if humidity or something's affecting or something, but I had a lot of pain there, and I have a lot of pain in my chest this time of year too. And that started I was in the military for a brief time, and it started after that. I don't know what happened there. But it's almost a seasonal chest pain right in the center here. It almost feels like it's tearing. And then this is when I get my iritis flare-ups. And I asked the doctor last time I was in, and I was like, this always happens same time of year every year right now. Is this the only thing that's different this time of year? Is sugar. We just had Thanksgiving where I was pumping a bunch of sugar. We just had Christmas. We had Halloween before that. And here about January, February, I'm still eating all the leftover candy from Christmas, and, Valentine's around the corner. We got to eat all the chocolates, right? We gotta, and bang, iritis flare up every time. And so, and when I asked her that, she's like, I don't know, maybe, I've heard sugar can be inflammatory, but maybe, I don't know. No one knows why it flares up. And I was just kind of like, okay, sure. I'll take you at that. I don't know. Okay. And, but I started October 4th. That's my carniversary, right? And so I've been doing it for 4 months now. And this is the time. This is the time when I have the pain. This is the time when I have all the issues come up. This is when my hip's hurting, when my chest feels like it's tearing, and nothing this year at all. No flare-ups, no nothing, no pain. I feel, I don't know how to say it. I know that they say you feel like another breed of human. I don't know if that's the case yet, because I'm not 100%, and again, this is, I don't know, maybe you could give me some feedback on this. It seems like there's in the carnivore world, we're struggling to define ourselves. I've got shows going all day, and yours a lot. I love listening to all the different folks that talk and all the different point of views. I love it, because you're right. Like you said, it's different story every day. I love it. Instead of kind of just hearing the same studies and the same stuff over and over. And so I'm watching it all day, and it seems like the community, it almost seems like if you're not lying, then you're a dirty carnivore, or whatever, or a ketovore, or whatever they want to call it. Because like we'll make taco meat, and I'll just use the normal seasoning, no problem. And I keep Diet Coke or Coke Zeros in my fridge, diet soda. And at late at night when I get that craving for that huge bowl of cereal, if I get that, I just grab a Coke and I feel fine. I know there's a ton of chemicals in there, and I'm just like, hey, I'm not sucking down the half a box of chocolate, of sugar-coated cocoa bombs. And so, I guess that's kind of where I'm at with it.
So can I just ask, regarding your heart going crazy and that kind of thing when you were going to sleep, has that subsided?
Good question. Yes. So I measured my resting heart rate the other day, and I've done it a couple times, and it's like 64 beats. It's down, and I feel great. I don't have that race. I'll take that back. Maybe I'll explain in a minute. I don't have that race again. I've started exercising my whole family. We're getting up in the morning now, and it's not huge exercising. It's, Monday we're doing weights, and we're just lifting some, kettlebells downstairs, me and my wife, my two boys. And Tuesday we're doing cardio, so we're on the treadmill or something like that. And then we take a break on Wednesday and then repeat on Thursday, Friday. And so what I feel is, and to speak to that a little bit, I don't really feel my heart race anymore. But when I get on the treadmill, it's kind of a strange feeling. I almost feel like a burning sensation on the right side of my body, and it crosses my chest, almost like fire going across my chest. But it feels great. And I don't know that there's any medical anything for that. I don't know if it's the crap burning out of my veins, or my body's really opening up and releasing stuff into my bloodstream to help me run. But I get a huge burst of energy right then. And man, I could really, I can start running. And so I feel that, and that's really the only time I really feel anything in my chest anymore. I did have, when I started this, I didn't know how long I would go. At first I was kind of like, I'll do 30 days and see how I feel. And then I got to the end of 30 days. I'm like, I feel amazing. I'm going to go another 30. And so, it was right before the holidays. And so Thanksgiving came, and I hadn't announced to anybody. My family knew, but no one else knew. I wasn't telling anyone. And so my sister-in-law, who also loves to baked pies specifically for me, because she knows I'm kind of a pie snob. And so she's like, I've got these pies. I want to hear what you think. So I had a couple slices of pie from that, and it was immediate. You immediately felt it. And, that night I was kind of like, I feel a little off. And, they were small slices, just little guys, little slivers. And then I woke up the next morning and both my hips were aching. And I was like, there you go, right there, no denying it. And then Christmas came around, kind of same story. We'd kind of set up this special Christmas brunch we were going to go do. Instead of a present to ourselves, to my wife and I, we decided to trade. We were going to go to a play for her, and then I was going to go to this Christmas breakfast for me. But that was, before Carnivore started. We set all that up, and so we went there, and I was like, I'm just going to relax. I'm just going to eat what's here, and kind of same thing. So I started, I had gingerbread pancakes. Man, Dave, they're as good as they sound, buddy. I mean, it's good stuff right there.
They do sound good, gingerbread pancakes.
yeah, s'mores French toast. I mean, they went all out. This place we went to, it was amazing. And there was the cheesecake. The cheesecake, what got me? I was like, oh my gosh, that stuff's amazing. I had more than one slice. And then later that day, the kids were baking like Christmas cookies. And I'm not going to turn down a cookie from my kid. No diet in the world, right? And so they bring cookies over, and I have some cookies, and then every year, for tradition, I get one of the full pound Reese's peanut butter cups. Like I get one of those in my stocking, and I take one bite of that, and it's like, bang, light turns on, and I just feel my body, and then my heart starts beating strange again, just immediately, just this strange beat that's just not quite right. And it kind of hung with me all that day. And then the next day I was just kind of like, okay, no denying it. And so that was it. I haven't cheated since then. Not, nothing. It's just, I don't want to say it's not worth it, but it's not. You're really going to go back to achy hips and iritis flare-ups, taking drops every hour for months so you can have some cookies, no way.
So you said this is kind of the time that you would be getting these flare-ups. So you haven't had to put drops in your eyes at all so far this year?
No. And like I've got an open prescription with my optometrist, because I'm there every year. She's the only doctor I see regularly, and I only see her regularly because I have a flare-up every year. And so I've kind of got this open prescription. I could just go fill it, because when iritis comes on, it comes on fast. It's always on a weekend. It's always when everyone's closed. And it comes on fast and hits really hard. And so if in the beginning you can start your drop, you're good. But I mean, the drops have a 3-year lifespan. So I've got them in my cabinet at home, and I've got this prescription I can go fill when I need, and nothing, and this is when it would be, I'd be right in the thick of it right now, and not a thing, not a peep. Eyes are doing great.
That's awesome. That really is, to get relief from something like that is great.
Yeah.
So the reason I was asking about that, your heart before, is because as you were describing it, the only thing I could kind of relate it to was when I've fasted for an extended period of time, on like the second day of fasting, when I'm trying to sleep, that's when I struggle to sleep, because I guess my body is telling me, okay, come on, we need to eat something soon.
Interesting.
And my heart's beating more kind of stronger or harder than it would normally when I'm resting. And, like it's a wide awake feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, as you were describing it, that's what it kind of related to, made me think of. And I don't know, maybe just because you changed your eating patterns or something at the start, maybe that's why.
No, that's great feedback. Yeah, maybe it's my body saying, "Hey, you got to change here. Eating what you're eating is not doing it. You need to eat something."
Mm. So weight-wise, what's happened?
Good question. And so I can kind of rattle off the things that have improved. And they're akin to what most people would say, right? Weight. So I'm 4 months in. I started at 278. Yesterday morning I was 233, or sorry, 243. So I'm down 35 pounds. And it's not super noticeable yet. I didn't have a belly, just kind of my whole body just right evenly, proportionally. And so it's not super noticeable yet. I mean, I can see on the camera my cheeks are looking pretty round, but I swear in real life they're thinning out. But I guess it's my pants. I'm like walking out of my pants, and even your big pants, your fat pants, right? Those were like the button was hurting me, and I had to like have the top button unbuttoned, and sneakily put a belt over it to cover that, and those ones I mean I can't wear. They fall off after 2 steps, and so that's it for weight. Energy. I mean, of course, energy is just solid, and like they say with ketosis and burning fat, it's just a much slower burn, so your energy's even all day, and it is. Like I had a cold the other day, which it was the weirdest thing because with a cold you feel tired, you feel like your energy's gone. I knew I had a cold and I had the fever, but my energy was solid. It was the strangest, I don't know, dichotomy ever. I'm just like, what? I'm supposed to be tired, but I feel like I should be out in the shop, out in the garage working, So it was kind of a strange thing. And then the one thing and I did not anticipate this, and man, I'm glad it happened. I had like cripplingly embarrassing dandruff, and I wore a hat all the time because of it. And it's where you take the hat off and it's just, only could describe it as snowflakes, just, and at any time, do this and just nonstop. And that was gone on day 2. Like it was gone immediately. And I cut my hair really short, which is normally a recipe for you're going to burn your head and you're going to have it even worse. And gone immediately. And that was great. And you can see I comb my hair, I'm happy to be able to comb my hair again and not have to be so embarrassed or be constantly, checking the mirror and trying to pick stuff out of it. So dandruff was gone immediately. Bleeding gums, I've had that for years, as long as I can remember, they're gone. No iritis flare up, the ankylosing spondylitis, the hips, all that stuff. It's all gone. Chest pains are gone. And my mood has improved a lot, just happier. I mean, just going down that path of a typical, and again, I'll say typical or average, but maybe I'm speaking too broadly. Maybe it was just me, but you're questioning, what am I doing here? I'm kind of stuck in this job. It's not really going anywhere. It's my career path's not quite where I wanted it to be. Start having some pretty negative thoughts. My wife might be better off with someone else, and this might be just to me, but that's the direction I was going. I was definitely getting down that, suicidal path and where you're just like in a dark place. And I heard Kerry on his show talk about where he used to just sit in his basement for hours, in the dark. And I never went to that level, but I did have a place in my house that I kind of set up, and I would just go sit and just sit in front of this little space heater for just hours and just sit there and just kind of beating yourself up. Right. But gone. And I don't know how to equate it to the diet other than I feel in control. I feel happy. My energy is solid. The quality of life is going way up. I'm wrestling with my kids. I have energy to do that. We're having a ton of fun. And I mean, can you point the finger 100% of the diet? I want to say yes, you could. I mean, I definitely was not on the path before, and the only thing that's changed has been the diet. And so I don't know that there's any direct medical correlation, but I feel great. And yeah, playing with the kids like crazy. Sleep has been amazing, you know, because I was to get up 6 or 7 times a night, use the bathroom, and during the workday, going to the bathroom 4 or 5 times, and you know, and heaven forbid if you ate an El Diablo burger, you know, you're screaming when you're in the bathroom because those jalapenos are tearing you up. And but and I don't know if this is a Kelly Hogan. I don't know if you've tried it, the butter before bed. Have you tried that or heard them say that? They'll cut just little shavings of butter and kind of suck on it right as they're going to sleep. And I don't know whether it's working or not, but man, I'm sleeping super deep right now, and it's awesome. So I don't know if it's the butter or if it's the diet or both, but sleep's great. You know, I wake up feeling like $1,000,000, and I don't ever wake up feeling tired. You know how you kind of wake up feeling lethargic? I might wake up and think the bed's comfortable and I want to stay there a little longer, but I'm always ready to pop right out of bed. It feels great.
And that's one of the best feelings you can have as well, is when you're awake. It's like feeling, okay, well, it's time to get up and get to work or make breakfast or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So I've seen you ask about family, like if, you know, what does family think? I've told a few, and I've told a few that I thought could benefit. And I've told some friends here at work, like I've got one that's got cerebral palsy, a friend at work. And it's just, you know, you watch them walk around, they're in pain, they're struggling, they can't move. And, you know, they're sucking down pills like crazy, or Red Bulls for energy or whatever. I've got a buddy that, yeah, you know, he's always got a can of pineapple Red Bull in his hand, you know, and you kind of tell them, and they just, you know, with all those things, they look at you like you're nuts. You know, it's like, oh, meat? No, I couldn't do that. No, just meat? No, I can't do that. And you're like, okay, hey, you want to go get lunch? Yeah. Let's go get a steak. You're just like, it's what you would pick anyways. You know, I don't know why you aren't, you know, just eat it all the time and you'll be fine, man. I mean, can you imagine a diet where you eat steak and bacon and eggs? It sounds like the best thing ever. So I'd say friends and family and coworkers, no one's been super open to it, and I haven't tried to push it. I've been real quiet because I can kind of fixate and, you know, push something that, you know, I'm kind of into, and you know, that's that's an area of opportunity for me maybe. But with this one, I'm just keeping it close to the chest because I'm trying to figure it out myself. I don't know. I don't even think I understand the diet yet fully, to be honest with you. 4 months in, and I still don't think I quite have it figured out. And it's not a bad thing; it's a good thing. And it's probably because, you know, I still have those things hanging out there where when I'm making a steak, I'll just use Montreal steak seasoning. I mean, I know there's garlic in there, you know, and I know there's things like that. But I feel great. It's not throwing me off, at least where I currently am. But it's funny. It seems like the longer you stay on the diet, the more you angle towards that lion side of the diet. I just feel better when I'm eating beef. I don't know what it is about it, but it makes me happy. I'm happy when I have that first bite, you know, like Carrie cheers, I cheer too. You know, I feel great. But, you know, and a funny thing was I had almost an immediate aversion to chicken. Like I can eat wings, but any other chicken almost makes me nauseous. Chicken was out immediately.
I hear that from many people.
No kidding.
Yeah, I hear that from a lot of people. Personally, I've always been quite averse to chicken. I don't hate it, but it's always been pretty boring.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, most people I've spoken to are kind of like, you know, when they're listing the meats that they would eat, you know, chicken tends to be right at the end. You know, fish often beats chicken. So yeah.
There you go. I hate to say it's probably chicken and lamb for me. I tried to do a lamb roast the other day, and I did not do it right, man. The house smelled bad. It tasted bad. I'll stick with hamburger.
Nice. So, you mentioned before that you've got you know, in the morning, you've got your wife and the kids doing weights with you on a Monday and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's great that you're able to do that as a family. But how has it been with them accepting the diets?
Gotcha. Good question. So about a month in, my wife saw I'm down, you know, I don't remember at that time, 12 or 15 pounds. I'm feeling great. I'm kind of bouncing around the house, whereas I was kind of hiding in my corner right before. And she's just like, well, I got to do something. You know, I probably want to do HCG again. You know, I do well with that, but you're doing carnivore. I'll try it with you. And I was just kind of like, are you sure? not pushing it at all. Are you sure? And she's like, yeah, I mean, you're already cooking the meals. I'll do it. And so I was like, okay, great. And so she's been on it with me for the last 3 months. And she was always pretty healthy, not a ton of medical problems, but she's feeling good. Her energy levels are good. She's happy. I mean, again, you never want to point to one thing, but I mean, we're laughing and joking and running around the house and kind of playing like 15, 20 years ago, kind of flirting with each other. And I don't know. I don't know if you could say the diet rejuvenated us or just the effect of the diet allows yourself, your old fun self to come back. I'm not quite sure, but so she's doing it with me. My youngest son, he's only 9, and he's just kind of like, no, thanks. I want my Sunny D. And he just runs downstairs. He's not having that. And then my other son, who's a pretty athletic kid, he's 13, but he's into football and baseball, and he's snowboarding like crazy. I've taken him snowboarding right before this, and I'm going up to pick him up afterwards. Like he's into it. He's like, I want to have that stable energy. I want to feel good. And I'm just like, kind of, again, talk to my brother about it. He's like, make sure you don't, create. It's not the food. He can totally eat it, but you don't want to create this weird mental state that he's in where he's out counting calories in the cafeteria. You just don't want him checking every package for grams of carbohydrates. And I was like, okay, good point. And so I keep trying to back him off, but he's like full bore and wanting to do it. And because it's an okay diet anyways, I'm like, no problem, man. And so I make sure his backpack's full of kind of meat sticks and fatty things. And then as soon as he's in the morning, we have a lot of eggs and bacon and whatnot for breakfast. So he's starting the day off right. And then in the evening, we're doing tri-tip with goat's cheese on it. It's amazing. So delicious, right? Or something. And so so far he's doing great, and his energy levels are high, and he's kind of playing with his friends, and he's just going all day. Where they're taking breaks and they're going to get their croissant sandwich or whatever. And he's just like pulling a stick of jerky out of his backpack, eats it, and, hits the slope again. So I guess I don't know where I'm at with kids doing it, but I think we're doing okay for 4 months in.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned about coworkers before. So I think there's one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of people, when you try and tell them about the diet, they'll be thinking, yeah, this all just sounds like too woo-woo kind of stuff, too way out there. I know that the pharmaceutical companies can make medicine that'll change things in your body, but it sounds like too much magic and witchcraft and woo-woo and stuff to imagine that just food could impact your body in any particular way. I mean, I think that's the thinking, whether it's conscious or subconscious. So for someone watching that, might be thinking, this sounds ridiculous. How can you cure all these things and just by changing the way you eat? Can you kind of speak to them?
Yeah. Well, I guess it would just say, I would say it's several small things, I mean, I think carnivore is a big hammer. Like, I mean, you're going to completely change the way you eat, but I don't know that it's just carnivore. It's, suddenly you feel lighter and you're happier at work, and the interaction with your coworker just goes a little smoother, and you shake it off, and you're kind of bouncing through the door at work. And so your interactions with the people around you are just a little bit better and a little bit smoother. And a lot of people talk about clarity, and I haven't really noticed that a ton, but what I've been noticing is I was kind of having a hard time, and maybe this is clarity. I'm having a hard time thinking deeply. I could think surface level and kind of analyze some stuff, but I've really just like kind of sat down and just been like, what's peace in my life? And thought about it for like an hour. I've never done that before, and so, and then maybe you go into meal prep, and it's so simple. I look forward to every meal. And so tonight it's like, Try chip and goat's cheese. Tomorrow's hamburger and eggs. We make a big flat patty, and about yay big, and we put a layer of cheese and like 8 eggs on it, and we just set it in the middle of the table, and we all just eat off it. It's great. And so I'm not stressing about dinner. I don't stress at all. It's there. It's waiting for me. Dinner's prepared in 30 minutes. We're eating. We're going around the rest of our night happy. And so to say, changing the way you eat is kind of this magic pill or magic drug, so to speak. Why would I do that as opposed to just the drugs I can get for, a gajillion dollars with my prescription, copay, and I could just take all those and I'll be fine. I don't know. I never understood that rationale. Just, I'm going to take one drug and I'm going to take 2 or 3 others to reverse the effect of the one drug. And so, and not to be critical, because I'm just an average guy, right? And people do what they need to do to feel okay. But I think carnivore is simply, it's almost like it cleared up the big dot in the mess. The mess hits forward and you clear up the big one, and then all those little ones just kind of fade, and you're not fighting with your spouse as much or anymore. I mean, my wife and I haven't had a fight in 3 months, and not that we really fought each other a ton, but there's, a typical married couple, there's tension and there's miscommunication. And now it's like we see the argument coming and we jump in front of it. And we're like, hey, I know this is coming. I can feel it. Let's just talk it out right now. And I don't know how that's been the best thing for my relationship in a long time. And I know that sounds weird when you're saying food, but food is a way to bond with people around us. It's a way to feel good. A lot of people use it to self-medicate. And it's ironic that we use junk food to self-medicate and give ourselves a little dopamine hit. But we're so resistant to using really nutrient-dense food that's going to give us a way bigger hit than any dopamine hit ever could. And so I don't know to those folks. I don't know what to say. I will say you need to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's what you need to do to be, once you're there, you're ready. If you're not quite there yet and you're just doing it for weight, because when I was originally researching it, it was just kind of this interesting thing I'd heard about. I'm like, yeah, I like to eat meat, but I'll try it. But as I dig deeper into it, it seems like it's a healing diet. It heals you. And that's the point of the diet, is to heal yourself. And but it's not just your body. It heals your spirit. It heals relationships. It heals, at least so far, it's healing outlook on life. And you just happen to lose weight with it. So if you've got to appeal to the vanity of people and say, hey, you're going to lose weight, you're going to love it. You're going to lose a ton of weight. If you have to use it to appeal to people's vanity, I think that's totally fine. Let's push it out there as a weight loss diet and have people cure all these other things. I think that sounds brilliant. Whatever way we can do to get it out there, I think it's worth effort.
Well said. I think that's actually a really good point. A lot of people come into this for the weight loss part, and then once they get the weight loss and they're happy, but then once they see everything else changing and healing and getting better, it's like the weight loss becomes this secondary thing. And it's like, oh yeah, that's nice, but I'm much happier that I don't have joint pain anymore. Or I'm much happier that I've got a better mood now, or sleeping better.
I got my life back, And my buddy I go to lunch with a lot, he's like, you look 15 years younger, man. I don't see the bags under your eyes. It's just, I don't know what you're doing, but and I tell him, he's like, oh yeah, I can't do that. But, but no, you're totally right.
I think, not to drag this discussion out too far, but one of the things you talked about regarding the medication and spending a gajillion dollars, I think that's one of the issues, because the medication costs money, and the medication is expensive, especially when you have to take another medication to deal with the side effects of this one. And it's just like the domino effect, right? People are paying a lot of money, right? But one of the terrible marketing and psychological things that go along with spending money is what you spend money on, you value as that's the solution. Right. And then food is just, well, you have to spend money on food, whatever it is, right? So you don't kind of value that the same way. So I think it's also, it's a mindset shift for a lot of people. So I think that's a really good point that you made, about spending the money. I think if people can really get out of that mindset of, I value this because I spent so much money on this. And go, well, I'm going to try a steak instead, or as well as at least. Then
Yeah. Yeah, Dave, you say it well. I mean, give yourself 90 days, take your health back and your paycheck. Take them back. See how you feel. If you don't like it, you can fill your cabinet full of Twinkies and throw money at the pharmacy. They'll love you. They'll take you right back. But try it for 90 days. What's the problem?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can buy a whole new wardrobe with that money you save on the pharmaceuticals, right?
Yeah, there you go. For the people that love shopping, hey, it's an excuse to shop. No, that's great. So
new body, new clothes, no meds. It's a win all around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Steve, do you have any social media or YouTube or anything like that if people want to reach out?
I really don't. I don't have anything. I mean, just an email address.
Steve, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. I'm glad you're doing so well, and I'm glad your family is too. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. See you.